Let's be real, no one's coming. Not to motivate you, not to rescue you, not to hand you your dream. And that hurts, doesn't it? Because you've been waiting for the call, the sign, the help. But deep down, you know the truth. The only person who's ever going to save you is you. You're tired of starting over, tired of being behind. But every time you let a bad day become a bad week, you hand your life away. Discipline doesn't wait for motivation. Healing doesn't wait for permission. Success doesn't care about your feelings. It only respects your effort. No one is coming to fix it. And when you finally accept that, you start to rise. You've spent years shrinking, avoiding, procrastinating, telling yourself tomorrow. But tomorrow has a body count. And most people bury their potential in the graveyard of delay. So today you change. You do the work. The boring work, the hard work, the invisible work. Because the life you want, it's hiding behind the days you don't feel like showing up. So you show up anyway. You don't need another vision board. You need a calendar and a backbone. You don't need louder dreams. You need quieter habits. You don't become unstoppable overnight. You become unstoppable when you stop breaking promises to yourself. When you get up even when no one notices. When you keep going even when you're not clapped for. The grind is quiet. The growth is brutal. The glow up? That's earned. One day, they'll ask how you did it. How you went from forgotten to undeniable. And you'll tell them the truth. You stopped waiting. You stopped wishing. You got tired of begging for a breakthrough. So you became one. You showed up for yourself. Again and again and again. Until the world had no choice but to see you. So what now? Another excuse? Or your next level? No one's coming. And that's not the problem. That's the invitation. Now go show up for you. Let's be real. You keep telling yourself you'll start when you feel ready. But let me tell you something that might sting a little. Ready isn't coming. You've been conditioned to wait for confidence before you act. But confidence is not a prerequisite. It's a result. And the only way you earn it? You move without it. You're not behind. You're not lazy. You're not broken. You're just stuck in the loop of almost. Almost started, almost brave, almost ready. But almost has stolen years from people who had everything they needed except permission. And that permission? It doesn't come from outside. It comes from you. Let's talk about fear. Fear shows up loudest right before your breakthrough. It tells you to wait, to plan more, to be perfect. But fear is a liar, and you've listened long enough. The first draft will be messy, the first workout, awkward, the first video, cringe, and that's exactly how it should be. The greats weren't great when they started, they just didn't quit. It's not about getting it right the first time, it's about getting it done, then doing it again, better. You think you need clarity, you think you need motivation, but what you really need is motion. One action, one uncomfortable decision, one time choosing courage over comfort. It's not going to feel good at first, it's going to feel clunky. You'll second guess every word, every step, but keep moving anyway. Because movement creates clarity, and every single version of you that's ever grown did it through discomfort. Maybe you were waiting for someone to believe in you first, to tell you you're ready, to give you a sign. But here's your sign, this moment, this message, this breath. No more waiting. Show up messy, launch before you're polished, speak before you're certain. You don't need perfection, you need to be real. Every person you admire, they didn't start perfect. They just started. They chose movement over mastery, and you can too. You've rehearsed it enough in your head. Now live it. The dream isn't going to build itself, and no one is coming to live it for you. You don't have to be fearless. You just have to be in motion. Some days it'll feel like you're moving backwards. Some days you'll want to give up. That's normal. That's proof you're in the process. But if you stay in motion, if you keep choosing progress over pride, you'll wake up in a life you built, not one you settled for. The difference between where you are and where you want to be is simply how long you're willing to feel uncomfortable. Growth feels like resistance, but it also feels like purpose. When you do it anyway, you start proving to yourself that you're trustworthy. You build self-belief with your actions, not your intentions. So stop waiting for clarity, for energy, for someone to choose you, and do it anyway. This is your permission. This is your proof. This is your turning point. And you'll look back not with regret, but with pride. Because you didn't wait to feel ready.
You've spent your whole life waiting for the apology that never came, the recognition, the love, the moment when someone would finally say, "You matter." But what if that moment isn't coming, unless you create it? What happens when you stop waiting and start choosing you? This is that story, your story. And this time, it begins with you. You've always been the one holding it all together, the one who says "I'm fine" when you're falling apart, the one who gives even when you're empty. You canceled your dreams to make room for theirs. You said yes when your heart screamed no. And every time you made yourself smaller, they praised you for being easy. But inside, you were unraveling, quietly, silently, completely. You were celebrated for your strength but never comforted in your softness. You wore resilience like armor. But it was heavy, wasn't it? You weren't fine, you were functioning. There's a difference. And the hardest part? You started to forget what it felt like to be held. Not for what you do, but for who you are. One morning, you woke up, and it hit you. No one is coming. Not to save you, not to see you, not to finally give you what you've been earning with your suffering. And for the first time, that truth didn't break you. It woke you up. You realized you don't need a rescue. You need a return to yourself. You paused. You sat with that ache. You let yourself feel the weight of everything you had carried, every yes that should have been a no, every tear you swallowed, every boundary you erased, just to be loved. And in that stillness, you met yourself, maybe for the first time. You started small, saying no without explaining, choosing rest without guilt, walking away from people who only clapped when you were quiet. It was terrifying, and it was holy. You cried, you doubted, but you didn't stop, because something inside you knew. This wasn't selfishness, this was salvation. You began building new rituals, lighting candles not for aesthetics but for healing. You wrote to the version of you that needed permission to exist. You gave it. You whispered truths into the mirror. I'm allowed to take up space. I'm allowed to be loved without overperforming. I'm allowed to rest. And over time, you softened into someone you finally trusted. Now look at you. Still soft, still kind, but no longer silent. You show up for yourself like it's sacred. You take up space without apology. You no longer beg to be chosen, because you already chose yourself. You speak with fire now. You rest without guilt. You set boundaries and call it love, not cruelty. And the world? It hasn't always liked this version of you. But that's okay. You didn't rise for their approval. You rose for your life. You no longer abandon yourself for proximity. You no longer trade authenticity for belonging. This is the moment you chose yourself. And everything changed. If this story feels like yours, it's because it is. And if it doesn't yet, let this be the beginning. Now go. Choose you. Again and again.